Ladies and gentlemen, as we go ahead for our first panel discussion of the day now, the theme on Bharat Mart, empowering Indian SMEs to rise from local to global. It centers around the impact of Bharat Mart on the Indian supply chain, its strategic role in strengthening India and UAE bilateral trade, and more. So let us welcome on the stage our esteemed panelist and moderator on stage.
Today we are going to be discussing on our Bharat Mart, empowering India and taking India from being local to being global. But the challenge, as John was speaking about, is all about now the two areas of critical importance in supply chain, and one is ethics, and the second one is sustainability. I would like to begin by saying that this is the moment of India. It's the big India rebound. And that's the very fact that Blue Ocean is spreading its wings, empowering minds. And we are here in India now. We have spread all over India now. And we are going to be bringing a lot of such seminars and topics of discussions for all you fellow supply chain and procurement professionals. I don't think so that any one of us over here were there during the British era. But when the Britishers left India, we started with just 0.89% of economic growth. In today's world, that would be a disaster. India has rebounded, and we are looking at over 8% in the coming years. But to facilitate that, India will have to empower its young generation, not only in terms of the knowledge of supply chain and procurement, but also expanding its wings into many areas that will drive the supply chain. So with me, we have the champions from the supply chain industry representing varied industries. And the whole idea behind here is to further take India on its path to Viksit Bharat. So you must be aware that in Dubai, what's coming up is the Bharat Mart. Many of you must have heard about it. So my first question, if I go around and start, I would like to start with Ramit, because Ramit, you are at the core, you know. You deal directly with B2B, B2C in your industry. What can the SMEs learn? How they can now take India to the global world?
Thanks, Percy. So I represent Henkel. It's a German multinational company, about 150 years old. So I think a very appropriate question. First of all, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I would like to begin by saying that there's a lot that the global corporations like us are learning from the SMEs. However, having said that, I think there are few top things that I can mention over here that that I think that SMEs can actually also take away from companies like ours. The first I would say is a strategic perspective, a balance of a short-term and a long-term vision. So typically an SME when they start, they're not flush with funds, unlike most of the global corporations, and therefore it's not so easy to look at the the long term. So that becomes an important part, to look at the long term and focus and let's say balance that with the short term. So that's one. The second one I was talk about, and which also was mentioned, I think by John, was the concept of sustainability. I think the global corporations have an edge over there. We have been taking a lot of steps in sustainability. I think the SMEs can really take a leaf out of that book. I think they represent a huge part of India, and unless the SMEs are participating in the whole sustainability initiative, we don't really stand a chance. And I would say the third piece that I'll talk about here is brand building. Global corporations, we know how to build brands. A Coca-Cola is known worldwide, a Henkel is known worldwide. I think SMEs would do well to learn how to build these brands, how to scale up these brands. I mean, there are many others, but I think I'll leave it at these.
Thank you. What best practices can SMEs adopt to not only have a very effective inventory, after all, when a person needs a washing machine, he needs a washing machine and not a refrigerator. So how can you take this effective inventory management to avoid overstocking, redundancy, and stockouts?
I'm ex Flipkart, head apparel supply and growth. And to answer your question, COVID has made all of us learn a very important lesson to the entire humankind. And the SMEs, especially the SMEs, they have to take a look at their inventory. They can work on the omni integration. They how the big channels or the big player, like Ramit mentioned about the Henkel, how the big players work in the omni integration. They should look at the inventory management both from the offline and online perspective, because the digital adoption has to be there post-COVID. And the company which has adopted successfully are able to sail through the pandemic very successfully. So similar way, if SME has to go on the global platform, they should learn how to manage the inventory not only on the online offline channel but also on the online channel. They should adopt to the digital technologies. They should adopt to the data, artificial intelligence. They should look into the social media and the different trends which is going on in the market, so that the effective forecasting can be done and accordingly the inventory can be optimized.
Okay.
So digital adoption is very key. The big data, the use of artificial intelligence, and the other omni integration. These all are the few levers which SMEs should adopt to go on the global platform.
How can the Indian SMEs prepare to counter such headwinds and not only take over from China, but actually lead the world when it comes to defense?
If you consider a story of minus China, then I would like to recall an event in my life. I mean, it is in early 2000s. One of the ex-professor of Peking University, strangely, it is in Beijing and they changed the name from Peking to Beijing, but university still named is Peking only. So this professor was there, our go-to guy on China matters. And he jokingly told me that the difference between replacement and substitution, we came to know from US English. That means that in Chinese Mandarin language, there is a word called daiti. And daiti means substitution as well as replacement. For both these words, they have the same word. This explains that when they came and understood the way the US does the business, they evolved themselves into categorizing these two words very differently. So if you go to Webster and you will find these two words, one is substitution. It denotes or it attaches the value which is temporary in nature, whereas replacement is more of a permanency in nature. So those who are now beginning to replace a competition, maybe in Europe or in US or any other country, especially this is very important for India, then it is very important to know that substitution occurs at value creation for a client, or you be part of that supply chain. Whereas replacement occurs when you are going to innovate. So if what resources presently at our hand and how you are going to deploy it for the future, that is going to define whether you will substitute or replace. This is the most important aspect in the international supply chain, where no one is going to train you on doing this. Now coming to the important aspect that, yes, so now what we should do. So when we created a market entry matrix with the help of or understanding the Chinese of 80s China, and that time we created that at first you should define what is your tier 1 countries where you can able to replace, and tier 2 countries where you want to substitute. This is the way you are defining your first layer of matrix. One, tier 1 countries, tier 2 countries. Now you define your organization, your product strategy in a way that first you substitute so that you can manage your cash flow, and secondly, you can able to replace it with your substitute products by going into tier 1 countries. Why it happens? Because these tier 2 countries are the OEM suppliers of these tier 1 countries. So if you define, especially whatever your industry or sector is, and when you put this matrix and when you're going to define that what is that replacement or what is that substitution is going to happen and which will make you successful, that will define your success.
How can they manage competitive cost in today's supply chain when you have this big giant brother sitting on top of you? Shed some light, to this young crowd over here. How will they benefit? How can they take India to the next level, and how will they represent India at the Bharat Mart?
Well, when it comes to the small enterprises, I think the supply chain fails over there because the scale is not there. That's the biggest problem. Their volumes are so low, none of the optimization tools, none of the optimization strategies work in the first place. So what happens is you have to adopt your entire strategy on a consolidation status where you need to put in a consolidation mode where you can have a staggered orders for your supplies in for your raw material and also for your orders going out. Because here both the ends has to be seen, your procurement as well as your dispatches which has to be done. Unfortunately, what happens in a sea freight condition, too much of consolidation again is not possible because the clearance becomes a problem in most of the ports where you can't do like a air mode where you have a courier mode of clearance. You don't have that option in sea in that same balance. So what happens is you have to have a minimum order for even a LTL kind of a less than a container load also. So there has to be minimum freight which has to be there, otherwise the cost really becomes very high. So now the art here is balancing in terms of the cost, what you're going to incur per kg while shipping your goods out, and the inventory you have to hold. So you have to have the sweet spot where you pick up what kind of an inventory level and what kind of a freight you have to outgo. Now that's where the supply chain calculation comes into picture for a small enterprise. So generally what you have seen the trend, the small enterprise starts with air freights. They use more air freights because that's become cheaper than a sea freight on small volumes. And then they slowly move into the sea freight less than a container load. On the domestic side, of course, there are enough of options available for a LTL and a part truck movement. So that's not a problem, whether it is for inwards or for outwards, both are options are available. But international, still there are challenges. But luck is that there are new companies who are coming up who are doing consolidation. Even the sea freight, there are a few companies who are doing a consolidation job. There are online consolidation platforms which are available. So these small SMEs can actually take help of these consolidators to consolidate their loads with these companies and get a marginal improvement in the pricing. So I think the most important thing is striking the balance between inventory and the freight cost will be the key factor for the small companies.
What's the current landscape of SMEs in India?
Current landscape of SMEs in India, or rather I would say current landscape of SMEs in my business also, more or less the same. SMEs in India typically contribute to around 40 to 45% of the exports, if I go by Government of India's reports 22-23. More or less 30 to 35% of the exports have been catered by SMEs in 21, again as per the, the Government of India's reports. So you can imagine the kind of substantial contribution SMEs are having in the Indian economy. They have been considered as the powerhouses of the economic growth. Coming to ACG, ACG is into pharma business, world's largest capsule manufacturing organization in India. And typically when I lead supply chain of ACG engineering, ACG is the most crucial vertical that is engineering. I saw that SMEs are managing almost 45% of my business volume. They are constituting around 30% of my total supply base. So again, it was a huge contribution they were making in my business. So SMEs are having this substantial contribution. Coming to the challenges, I hope your question was also related to
Yes.
the challenges. Over the years, we realized that the SMEs are going through multiple challenges, and which was typically hindering to their growth. The first and foremost challenge that we envisaged was replicating the culture of ACG in their day-to-day business. The quality management systems that we are practicing, the value systems that we are practicing, our customers' expectations, the customer base, like 55% of my business comes from international sales. So the customer centricity, all those aspects were, I wouldn't say missing, but there was a big gap. The second and most important challenge that we observed was embracing digitalization. Digitalization was something which was really missing, despite having the fact or despite the reality that they were all capable, they were all having willingness to go digital, but that was missing. And the third is managing all the deliverables within their business systematically, like cost management, delivery management, understanding the knowledge on those deliverables and managing those deliverables within their business systematically. These were the challenges that we anticipated and that we learned over the years.
From my perspective, I already answered what advantages the global companies have, and now you asked what advantage the SMEs have over the global companies. To me, customer centricity is one of them, and which I think both of them already touched upon. Two more that I can touch upon. One is agility. The global companies are in no way as agile as the SMEs. That's a big advantage an SME has. And related to that is innovation. The SMEs can innovate much quicker than a global company can, and I think that's a huge advantage to have. The challenge for a global company like me is how to let's say catch up with SMEs on these aspects.
What does India have? India has both capacity and the tenacity, and that is what makes our SMEs a global power. Because this young India, not only they have the capacity, the capability, the knowledge, the human resource, the manpower, but what they have with them is the willingness, correct? Right? The willingness for customer centricity, because India believes in Atitha Bhava, something like that, right? Right? Where guest is God, right? And who is the guest for us? It's our customers, correct? Someday somebody said customer is the king. Well, we all believe in it, whether we like it or not. But that is what it is today. Well, on behalf of Blue Ocean, let me tell you also one thing, friends. You are going to see Blue Ocean spread all over India. Okay? In the coming years, it's just going to be Blue Ocean, Blue Ocean, Blue Ocean, whatever state you are. So get ready for Blue Ocean. But very important, once again, thanking all of you. And thanking all of you who are here. Let's together embrace the liberal initiatives taken by our government and encourage the entrepreneurs of today. I want every one of you to take charge of the historical underutilized businesses, women-based enterprises, local SMEs. Give them a platform. Bring them in the business. Friends, this is just the beginning. Thank you very much.